beginnen zu reagieren, die sich
all the attention created by radio and television fell on the border posts, and the guards there had to make the decision alone.
haben in der Zeit
With hindsight, it's the border guards we must thank, not any of us. The guards on the ground at the time, they made the crucial decisions. They ignored their standing orders. They said, open the border.
sich entschieden und gesagt, ich öffne die Grenze.
So the night that changed the world was an accident. Unplanned, unanticipated, and unknown to those running the country. There's almost nothing left of the Berlin Wall now. The Germans tore it down in disgust. But those double line of bricks down there running along the centre of the road, that marks out where it used to run. And that goes right across the city. Here it curves around the Brandenburg Gate. And just beyond that traffic island, where all that taxis are going past now, that's where I climbed up on the wall that night to join in the celebrations. Standing on top of the Berlin Wall, which for years has been the most potent symbol of the division of Europe. And there can be few better illustrations of the changes which are sweeping across this continent than the party which is taking place here on top of it tonight.
I want to be an astronaut.
And I remember it as a deliriously happy night. It was something where I could see nothing but good that was going to come out of it. And you don't get to say that very often in my job. Even in a remarkable year, it came totally out of the blue. Nobody expected it. The German government was taken aback. Their problem was how to get here to Berlin. The Chancellor wasn't even in the country. He was visiting Poland with his foreign minister.
Federal Chancellor Helmut Kohl and I paid a visit to Warsaw. During the dinner we received the information, the wall is open. And on the spot we decided we have to return to Berlin. What was not so easy, because first of all we had to call our planes back to Warsaw. Then because German planes were not permitted to cross the territory of GDR, we had to fly to the Baltic Sea and over the Baltic Sea to the Hamburg airport, and then we had to ask the Americans to give us a plane which brings us to Berlin. But the night from 9 to 10th of November, I cannot speak of sleep during this night. I was so emotionally. And now it happened what we all had expected, what we had hoped it would happen, and now it happened. I was so happy. I was so happy, and I was deeply moved by that.
The few stretches of the wall that are left have been sanitized by turning them into an art gallery, a place for tourists, shunned by most Berliners. There were always going to be problems caused by opening up the wall. For a start, you couldn't magic away the 380,000 Soviet troops on German soil. Fortunately, the Kremlin kept them in their barracks. But on the 9th of November, all that Moscow, London and Washington could do was sit back and watch.
I was hosting a lunch for the Philippine President Corazon Aquino up on the 8th floor of the State Department. And I will never forget, we were there having lunch, talking about U.S.-Philippine issues and Asian issues, and the Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, the third-ranking official in the department, came in and handed me a note that in effect said the East German government had just announced that they're going to permit people to cross into West Germany. And I thought, this is remarkable. And then we began to get reports of of people taking sledgehammers to the wall, that the wall was in fact coming down. Well, I immediately left for lunch, and I went down to my office on the 7th floor, and I called the president at the White House, and he said, come on over, and went over to the White House, and spent a good part of the afternoon, the rest of the afternoon, closeted with the president and some of his other national security advisors. I think I know we had the national security advisor there, Brent Scowcroft, and there were others.
How did you come to hear about it?
Утром доложили, только пораньше.
I learned in the morning, quite early in the morning, they reported it to me. My people were in a hurry to let me know. We had been expecting it to happen, could have happened at any time. It was brought about by the Germans themselves. No one was making them do it. No one was pressurizing Honecker.
Я принял к сведению этот доклад посла.
I took note of the report. It came from the East German ambassador, and it really moved us on to a new phase. Not that I was enthusiastic about it, but I accepted it as something that had to happen. We understood that the time was coming for the German problem to be addressed.
I'm from West Berlin, my friend from East Berlin. It's amerikanische Fernsehen.
And that you'll come to take them over?
It was happening before our eyes. It was rather surprising, quite frankly. It was, you know, it wasn't unlike the implosion of the Soviet Union in 1991. We did not predict that it would happen with that suddenness and that rapidity. Well, the same thing's true, I think, of the way the wall came down. Nobody really, now maybe the Soviet leadership saw it coming a little before we did, but I don't think anybody in Allied capitals in the West, whether it was Paris or London or Rome or Washington or where it was, I don't think we anticipated it happening with that speed.
The demolition of the wall began immediately. First, individuals hammered away at it. They were soon followed by construction teams that ripped out entire sections.
Look, we are joined right at this moment by Alenka Frankel, who did that report just now, who's actually walking into the studio with a large brick in her hand.
One of the first bricks from the wall was carried into a BBC studio.
Here is a brick from the Berlin Wall, a souvenir from your trip here.
Where Jens Reich, one of the founders of the opposition bloc, was discussing the night's events.
Jens Reich, look at it and tell us what you think tonight.
I would never have dreamed of seeing a piece of brick from the wall, not from the Chinese wall, but from our wall, our Berlin Wall. It's fine.
Very strange feeling. After all, the wall was open, had been opened that night, but the destruction of the wall was a quite different thing. And then when a stone was thrown on the table, I was really surprised, to say the least. This is something that showed us that, well, history is progressing. After all, the wall was something completely impenetrable. People had lost their life, and when trying to, with a ladder, with a staircase, to climb over, being shot down or otherwise caught and put into jail. So it was something of the end of the world in some way. Well, yes, we understood it's now the end. There will be a new world.
I went to Berlin. I think I was the first Western foreign minister to go to Berlin.
But the new British Foreign Secretary, Douglas Hurd, writing in his diary, noted problems ahead.
November 9. It's a Thursday, so there's Cabinet. Cabinet focuses on two singularly gloomy items, the ambulance dispute and the hash of nuclear power. Work through the Foreign Office items, the GDR being the most dramatic. The regime, and tonight the wall, crumbling fast. My last comment of the day, worried at MT's silence and suspicion on Germany. November 10, Friday. Tired. Office meetings, all subordinated to Berlin and the overthrow of the wall. A great fiesta and media occasion. TV and radio interviews. Persuade the Prime Minister to appear and utter.
We must be immensely grateful to those people behind the Iron Curtain who never lost their faith in liberty. But now it's the hard work, the practical work of building the democracy. And then we have to see what happens.
In the evening, ring Genscher, who is stately and emotional, and thanks Britain for all our help in difficult times over many years.
It's obvious that, in the British government, I personally had the impression there are some differences.
Between Mrs. Thatcher and Douglas Hurd?
Yes, he was very constructive and helpful. I couldn't really understand because the division of Germany was also the division of Europe.
Unplanned, unanticipated, and unknown to those running the country.
Beginnen zu reagieren, die sich
all the attention created by radio and television fell on the border posts, and the guards there had to make the decision alone.
haben in der Zeit.
With hindsight, it's the border guards we must thank, not any of us. The guards on the ground at the time.
And where all that taxis are going past now, that's where I climbed up on the wall that night to join in the celebrations. Standing on top of the Berlin Wall, which for years has been the most potent symbol of the division of Europe. And there can be few better illustrations of the changes which are sweeping across this continent. There's almost nothing left of the Berlin Wall now. The Germans tore it down in disgust. But those double line of bricks down there running along the centre of the road, that marks out where it used to run. And that goes right across the city. Here it curves around the Brandenburg Gate. And just beyond that traffic eye.
They made the crucial decisions. They ignored their standing orders. They said, open the border.
Sich entschieden und gesagt, ich öffne die Grenze.
So the night that changed the world was an accident.